Winning an MVP is far more than just being the best player in a specific season. It's a career-changing milestone. It could validate a player's greatness, redefine their legacy, or even launch them into the all-time great conversation. Today we'll break down how an MVP will impact each of the top 10 candidates for this season one by one, according to the MVP top 10 ladder. Starting off, we have Nikola Jokic. Nikola already has 3 MVPs and a chip, but a 4th MVP would push him into legendary status. Only Wilt and LeBron have 4, MJ has 5, and Kareem has 6. Nikola winning another would solidify him as one of the greatest centers ever. It would also make him the most dominant player of the 2020s, proving his style of play isn't just great, it's all-time great. If Jokic adds another MVP, he enters the conversation with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bill Russell as the most decorated big men in history. Of course, he doesn't have the amount of rings, but also, he doesn't have as much help as the other two had. But then again, that one ring would feel kind of uneven. Just think of like an NBA teeter-totter where all his MVPs are on one side and then his one ring on the other is barely putting down any weight. In a really weird way, and just a thought experiment, so not an official claim, would winning another MVP strangely invalidate Nikola Jokic's career in the sense that he has all of these regular season accolades but only one ring to show for it? And heck, top 10 centers all time, we're already having this conversation whether he wins MVP this year or not. And you could easily put Jokic in the top 20 all time regardless of position, but top 10 he's really gonna need to win more chips. For example, the only 2 players that are usually in top 10s with very few rings are Hakeem Olajuwon with 2 rings and Wilt Chamberlain with 2 rings. And I know I started this Nikola segment positive, but I'm kind of ending it strangely negative, but that's not what I'm trying to get at. Nikola is an all-time great legendary player. It's just that we're so used to him being so great, another MVP would kind of be like another Tuesday. Moving on, we have a player who's never won the award, at least not yet, and that is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. His aura alone already puts him in the conversation as the best player on the planet actively, but an MVP would officially mark his arrival. Strangely, he wouldn't even be the first Canadian to win MVP, he'd be the second as Steve Nash was the first. This would also be the 7th international MVP in a row, really showcasing the globalization of the NBA. In terms of his overall legacy, winning a regular season MVP would allow us to begin the best Thunder all-time debate with serious discussion. Right now it's not that serious since he's competing against Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant who have MVPs, and if he gets one too we could hold the debate, but he still wouldn't be able to easily win it unless he goes to the finals, and if he wins the finals then case closed, but we could at least start having the debate once he gets the award, if he gets the award. Next up, we have a guy who has a ring but no finals MVPs, so winning regular season MVP could be a nice substitute, and that is Jayson Tatum. It would also make him the first Celtic to win regular season MVP since Larry Bird all the way back in 1986. And in terms of legacy, with a regular season MVP and his ring, we could probably put him in the top 5 all time, but that's going to be challenging because this is the Celtics, but he's already debatable top 10, and MVP will launch him to top 5 with a heavy debate. But he's really going to need that regular season MVP alongside his ring. Without it, it's going to be very tough because this is the Boston Celtics. Take for example a player like Paul Pierce, who has a ring and a finals MVP, compared to Tatum, who just has a ring. And then there are many Celtics who won regular season MVP and a ring within this franchise, and in no specific order, this gives us the likes of Larry Bird, Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, Dave Cowens, and of course Hondo John Havlicek. And then we got players who won MVPs on a previous team like Kevin Garnett, but then went on to play in their primes on the Celtics and win a chip with them. So top 10 easy, top 5 very hard, but at least you could have the debate with credibility. Next up, we have the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo. He already has 2 MVPs, a championship, and a Defensive Player of the Year award, but a 3rd MVP would put him in a new tier. Only 10 players in NBA history have 3 MVPs. Adding another would put him above Tim Duncan in terms of MVPs and equal to Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Now, I'm not saying Giannis would be better than Tim, Larry, or Magic all time, but just in terms of trophy count, that is where he would be numbered at. And not to repeat my arguments in the Nikola segment, but just like Nikola, he's gonna actually need more rings if he wants to creep into that top 10 category, because again, the only players with few rings who make up these discussions are the likes of Wilt Chamberlain and Hakeem Olajuwon. I'm not saying another MVP is going to hurt Giannis, but he really actually needs more chips. On the opposite end of things, we have LeBron James. At age 40, LeBron winning his 5th MVP would be one of the most incredible feats in NBA history. It would tie him with Michael Jordan and Bill Russell for 2nd most MVPs ever, all 3 of them having 5, trailing only Kareem at 6, but most importantly, it would make him the oldest MVP in league history, and by far, as the 2nd oldest is Karl Malone at 35. Think about it, that's a 5-year age gap. gap. Not that Karl cares about age gaps, but still, that is a very huge feat for LeBron. So what would this mean for LeBron's legacy? And don't take this the wrong way, but probably not much, in the sense that, look, people either already think LeBron is the GOAT, or they think there's nothing he could do to be better than Michael Jordan, or he's going to need 2 rings to be better than Michael Jordan, and 1 more MVP isn't going to mean much. I don't mean this in a negative way, I just mean that LeBron's legacy is pretty much set in stone, win, lose, or draw. He's got nothing left to prove. Now, for a player with a lot left to prove is Anthony Edwards. Him winning an MVP would be a big deal. It would put him in the best Timberwolf all-time discussion, and really the only person he's competing against for that is the likes of Kevin Garnett. He led his team to a Western Conference Finals like KG, but he doesn't have a regular season MVP like KG, at least not yet. Also, winning the trophy before 25 would put him in rare company with the likes of Derrick Rose, Wilt Chamberlain, LeBron James, and Wes Unseld, just to name a few. Next up, we have a really underrated player playing for an underrated team, being Donovan Mitchell in the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's the best player on the best team, and this team isn't talked about enough. And I hate to do this, but since he does play for the Cavs, this is actually going to involve LeBron James, for better or for worse. Mitchell winning an MVP in Cleveland would officially move this franchise outside of LeBron's shadow, but of course they're more importantly eyeing a championship. He would instantly be regarded as the 2nd greatest Cavalier all time, and that's above the likes of Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, Mark Price, Brad Daugherty. But of course that's if he wins the MVP, he's got to grab that trophy. And I have seen some people make 2016 versus 2025 Cavalier debates. That one's a little premature. If they do win the chip, I would love to host that debate myself. And as for Mitchell's career outside of the whole LeBron Cleveland echelon, him winning an MVP would be a big deal. It would put him in the categories of the likes of, say, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Allen Iverson, a really good guard who has an MVP but no ring, at least not yet. If he can somehow win an MVP and a ring in the same season, that would also be a breath of fresh air. Because the last time that happened was Steph Curry all the way back in 2016, almost a decade ago. And if you want to throw Finals MVP into that mix, the last time that happened was LeBron James in 2013, well over a decade ago. Enough about Spida, let's talk about Spida's favorite city, New York, and the Knicks with Karl-Anthony Towns. Towns has been viewed as a talented big man, but an MVP would change his entire perception. It would prove that he's not just a great scorer, but a true leader and a franchise player. If he wins it in New York, he would instantly become a Knicks legend and their first MVP since Willis Reed in 1970. And talk about instant success. His first season on a new team and instantly winning MVP, that's like Moses Malone type greatness. Since the Knicks don't have a lot of championship players, him winning MVP could instantly put him in the top 10 discussion all time in just one season too, which is insane. And that's top 10 Knicks all time, not players in general. And like Mitchell, imagine if he somehow pulls off a ring, MVP and Finals MVP in the same season. That would be legendary. And now we have 2 dark horses. First is Cade Cunningham. Cade is still early in his career, but an MVP at 23 would be one of the most shocking achievements in NBA history. The Pistons' season success this season is already shocking. Before this season started, if you told me the Pistons would be playing winning basketball in March with a winning record, I would have not taken that claim seriously, and a lot of NBA fans also would have not taken that seriously. But Cunningham has defied the odds, and he really carried this team. And if you really think about what this award should stand for, most valuable player, Cade's value on this team, he actually might be one of the most valuable in the league. Without him, this would be a bottom tier franchise, just like they were the previous season. And the other dark horse is Jaren Jackson Jr. of the Grizzlies. Triple J is known for his defense, but winning an MVP would redefine his entire career. It's been quite some time where we had a defensive-centered player win this award. And yeah, technically, if you want to nitpick, you could say Giannis Antetokounmpo, but if you really want to nitpick, we haven't seen a player like this since, say, Kevin Garnett all the way back in 2004. Jackson would be in rare company with the likes of, say, Hakeem Olajuwon and David Robinson, dominant defenders who can take over a game both offensively and defensively, and of course he doesn't have a ring, he would need that more importantly, but the narrative would shift from just an elite shot blocker to one of the most dominant players in the league. His legacy would be completely transformed. All in all, MVPs just aren't awards, they're game changers. From Jokic trying to cement his all-time greatness, LeBron defying father time, or youngsters like Edwards and Cunningham making strides, the MVP tells a story no matter who wins it. So let me know in the comments below who you think's gonna win this award and who you think needs it the most. Don't forget to dunk on that like button and subscribe with notifications turned on. I'm Rebound Rewind, and I'll fast forward to you later.